The huge glass dome of the Galactic Council building was filled with strange sounds and voices from different alien races across the galaxy. Admiral Kyung-ho stood very still in the corner where the human group was staying. His old face showed no feelings at all as many different alien species talked loudly about what should happen to Earth. The tall blue alien with 6 arms from the Vorthan race hit the speaking table very hard with all his arms. He was shouting that humans were nothing more than stupid animals who had just learned how to leave their own solar system. Commander Somin, who was Earth's main person for talking with aliens, sat in her chair and watched as the council members started voting about Earth's future. The vote was to put Earth in something called the Protected Species Group. This meant that humans would be treated like small children who could not take care of themselves. Earth would not be allowed to do business with other planets, join military groups with other species, or get any of the really good technology that other aliens had. The small rabbit-like alien from the Quillen race was making high squeaky sounds as he talked about how humans needed at least 1,000 years of watching and teaching before they could be trusted with important things. What none of these alien creatures knew was that Earth had been getting ready for exactly this moment for many years. Captain Jinwoo was hiding on a special ship that could not be seen by alien machines. The ship was floating in space just outside the big council station. Jinwoo got a secret message from So-min that was written in a code that only humans could understand. The message was very short, but it meant something very big was about to happen. Earth's secret military project that had the code name Silent Storm was finally going to be shown to all the aliens who had made a very big mistake about how strong humans really were. The Galactic Council had made their choice about humans based on very old information that was not true anymore. They thought humans were still using the old kind of rockets that burned chemicals and only had simple nuclear weapons. The aliens had been watching Earth's public space program where humans let everyone see some of their rockets and space stations. The aliens thought this was all the technology that humans had. But what the aliens could not see and did not know about were the huge secret building places under the ground, the hidden places where humans built spaceships on the dark side of the moon, and the very advanced weapon systems that human engineers had been making perfect in complete secrecy for decades. The alien species had spent hundreds of years becoming comfortable and feeling safe because they thought they were much smarter and stronger than any other species in the galaxy. They had big armies and powerful weapons, but they had become lazy and slow because no one had ever challenged them in a long time. The Vorthan race, with their blue skin and 6 arms, had ruled many star systems for over 300 years. The Quillen rabbit people were known for being very smart and good at making deals. The insect-like Zeth species had technology that could destroy whole planets, but all of these powerful alien races had one big problem. They had grown up slowly over thousands and thousands of years. Each new piece of technology took them centuries to develop and improve, they thought. This was the only way that intelligent life could grow and become better. This is why they looked at humans and saw a species that had only been traveling in space for less than 100 years and decided, humans must be very weak and stupid. What the aliens did not understand was that humans were completely different from them. Humans did not take thousands of years to learn new things. Instead, humans learned very fast by making mistakes and then fixing those mistakes quickly. Human scientists and engineers worked day and night to solve problems that aliens thought were impossible. Humans also had something that most alien species had lost over their long, slow development: the ability to surprise their enemies and do things that no one expected. Admiral Kyung-ho had been chosen to lead the human delegation to the Galactic Council, not because he was the strongest or the smartest human, but because he was very good at not showing his real feelings. When the alien delegates laughed at humans and called them primitive, Admiral Kyung-ho just stood quietly and listened. He did not get angry or try to argue with them. He knew that in a few days these same aliens would not be laughing anymore. Commander So-min had trained for 15 years to be Earth's diplomat. She spoke 12 different alien languages perfectly and had studied the history and culture of every major species in the galaxy. But more importantly, she had been trained in something the aliens had never seen before: human psychological warfare. So-min knew exactly how to make aliens feel overconfident and sure of themselves. She had been acting weak and asking for help when she could have easily solved problems by herself. The secret that Admiral Kyung-ho and Commander So-min shared was that Earth had not been trying to join the Galactic Council because humans needed protection or help. Instead, humans had been studying the aliens very carefully for over 30 years. Every alien species had been watched and analyzed. Human spies had been living among alien populations, learning their languages, studying their technology, and discovering their weaknesses. Captain Jin Woo, floating in his invisible ship outside the council station, was the commander of just one small part of Earth's real military force, while the aliens had been watching Earth's public space program with slow chemical rockets. Humans had secretly developed technology that could travel faster than light without making any sound or being detected by alien sensors. Humans had weapons that could disable entire alien fleets without killing anyone, and ships that could appear and disappear like ghosts. The most amazing thing about Earth's secret preparations was that they had been done by working together in a way that alien species could not understand. Humans from every country on Earth had joined together to build the hidden military force. They had shared their best ideas and technology with each other instead of fighting and competing like most alien species did. This cooperation had let humans develop incredibly advanced technology in just a few decades, while aliens took centuries to make small improvements. As the Galactic Council session ended with Earth being placed under alien supervision, Admiral Kyung-ho walked slowly out of the council chambers. His face still showed no emotion, but inside he was thinking about what would happen next. The aliens had just made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy. They were about to learn that the small blue planet they had dismissed as unimportant was actually home to the most dangerous and unpredictable species they had ever encountered. The vote was finished. Earth was now officially a protected species that needed to be watched and controlled by more advanced alien civilizations. But what the aliens did not know was that they had just declared war on a species that had been preparing for this exact situation for decades. The next few days would change everything that every alien in the galaxy thought they knew about humans and Earth. 3 days had passed since the Galactic Council made their decision to treat Earth like a child that needed protection. The alien species across the galaxy were feeling very happy and proud of themselves for putting humans in their proper place. But then something happened that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe. The first sign that something was wrong came from the long-distance sensor stations that alien species used to watch for dangerous asteroids and enemy fleets. These sensors were the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy, and they had been keeping aliens safe for over 500 years. But on this day, the sensors started showing readings that made no sense at all. Massive energy signatures were appearing at the very edge of known space, and they were moving toward the center of the galaxy at speeds that should have been impossible. Captain Yujin stood on the bridge of her Earth vessel called Harmony's Edge and watched her crew of specially trained humans as they listened to alien communications from across the galaxy. The panic in the alien voices was almost funny to hear as they tried to understand what their sensors were showing them. The same aliens who had been laughing at human technology just 3 days ago were now scrambling to figure out how unknown ships were moving faster than their best warships. The Hegemony fleet had been the pride of the Vorthan military for over 2 centuries. Their massive blue warships were known throughout the galaxy as the fastest and most powerful vessels ever built. But now these ships that had never been outrun by anything were being left behind by mysterious vessels that seemed to bend the basic laws of physics. The Vorthan commanders were sending urgent messages to their home world asking for explanations that no one could give. Lieutenant Na Young, who was the tactical officer on Captain Yujin's ship, reported that the human fleet was performing exactly as planned. Over 300 Earth vessels had suddenly appeared in 12 different star systems at exactly the same time. These ships had been completely invisible to alien sensors until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. Each human ship was larger and more advanced than anything the aliens had in their military databases. What was most shocking to the alien species was the slow realization that these human ships had been watching them for months without being detected. Every Major alien military base, every secret weapon storage facility, every classified research laboratory had been under human observation. The species that the Galactic Council had dismissed as too primitive to understand basic space travel had been gathering intelligence with technology that was far superior to anything aliens possessed. The Quillen Rabbit people, who were known for having the best spy networks in the galaxy, discovered that their most secret communications had been intercepted and decoded by humans for over 6 months. The messages they thought were completely secure had been read by human intelligence officers who understood Quillen culture and politics better than most Quillens understood it themselves. General Taehyun was commanding the entire operation from Earth's hidden command center that was built deep beneath the Pacific Ocean on Earth. He watched on huge screens as alien fleets across the galaxy tried to respond to the sudden appearance of human ships, but their responses were slow and clumsy, exactly as human military strategists had predicted would happen. The aliens had grown comfortable and lazy. After centuries of being the strongest species in the galaxy, they had not fought a real war against an equal enemy for over 300 years. Their military tactics were old and predictable, based on fighting enemies who used the same kind of technology and thinking that they did, but humans were completely different from anything they had ever faced before. Human ships moved in ways that alien commanders could not predict or understand. When Vorthan warships tried to surround a human vessel, the Earth ship would simply disappear from their sensors and reappear behind the alien fleet. When Quillen scouts attempted to follow human ships to discover their base locations, the Earth vessels would lead them in circles through asteroid fields until the alien pilots became confused and lost the technology that humans were displaying. Was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. Human ships used something called quantum drive systems that allowed them to jump instantly from one location to another, without traveling through the space in between. This made traditional alien battle tactics completely useless, because humans could attack from any direction at any time without warning. Human gravitational manipulation shields could deflect any weapon that alien species had ever developed. The energy beams and explosive missiles that had decided the outcome of galactic wars for centuries simply bounced off human ships without causing any damage. At the same time, human weapons could disable entire alien fleets without destroying them or killing the crews inside. This showed a level of precision and control that amazed even the most advanced alien scientists. Captain Hunsik commanded a squadron of human fighters that were demonstrating their capabilities near the Zeth insect homeworld. The Zeth had always believed that their swarm tactics and numerical superiority made them unbeatable in space combat, but the human fighters moved through the Zeth formations like they were dancing, destroying alien weapons and engines while leaving the alien pilots completely unharmed. What the aliens found most disturbing was that humans seemed to know everything about their military capabilities, weaknesses, and standard operating procedures. Human ships would attack exactly where alien defenses were weakest, using tactics that exploited flaws in alien thinking that the aliens themselves had never noticed. This level of preparation and intelligence gathering suggested that humans had been studying galactic civilization much longer and more carefully than anyone had imagined. The most terrifying realization for alien military commanders was that the human fleet was not fighting at full strength. Everything they were seeing was clearly just a demonstration designed to show what humans were capable of. The Earth ships were holding back, using only a small portion of their true power. This meant that if a real war started, the aliens had no idea how much stronger human forces might actually be. Admiral Dong Hyan broadcast a message from his flagship to every alien government in the galaxy. His calm voice carried across star systems as he explained that humanity had been conducting a careful scientific study of galactic civilization for 30 years. Every alien language had been learned and mastered by human linguists. Every military strategy had been analyzed by human tactical experts. Every technological system had been reverse engineered and improved by human scientists. The message was simple, but its implications were staggering. Humans had not been asking to join galactic civilization because they needed help or protection. Instead, they had been quietly learning everything there was to know about alien species, while developing technology and strategies that made them The most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen. The species that aliens had treated like children were actually the teachers, and the aliens were the students, who had failed to recognize their own ignorance. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was completely different from any meeting in their thousand-year history. The same chamber where aliens had laughed at humanity just days before was now filled with fear and confusion. Ambassador So-min walked into the room followed by two human guards whose calm, confident presence seemed to command respect from species that had been making fun of Earth such a short time ago. The alien delegates who had been so sure of their superiority now sat in shocked silence as holographic displays around the chamber showed the true extent of human military power. Ships that moved faster than light, weapons that could disable entire fleets without killing anyone, in technology that made the most advanced alien systems look like ancient broken tools. The Quillen delegate, who had squeaked about humans needing 1,000 years of supervision, was now trembling in his chair. Fleet Admiral Donhayan appeared as a life-size hologram in the center of the chamber, broadcasting his image from the bridge of humanity's flagship. His voice was calm and steady as he began to explain what the aliens were seeing. The most shocking revelation was that Earth had been conducting a careful scientific study of galactic civilization for the past 30 years. Every alien language had been completely learned and mastered by human scholars. Every military strategy had been analyzed and understood by human tactical experts. Every piece of alien technology had been studied, reverse engineered, and improved by human scientists. The Quillen delegate, whose species was famous for their intelligence and cunning, felt his world collapse as Admiral Donhayan revealed that human agents had been living undetected in Quillen society for over 10 years. These human spies had learned to speak Quillen languages perfectly, had studied Quillen culture and history, and had even married into Quillen families without anyone suspecting they were from another planet. The species that prided itself on being able to detect lies and deception had been completely fooled by human intelligence operatives. The tall, Vorthan ambassador with his blue skin and 6 arms watched in horror as the Admiral showed footage of human ships easily bypassing the most advanced Vorthan defensive systems. The energy barriers and weapon platforms that had protected Vorthan space for 3 centuries were useless against human technology. Human ships simply appeared inside Vorthan military bases as if the defenses did not exist at all. What had seemed completely impossible was now undeniably real. The aliens were forced to accept that everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. The primitive chemical rockets and basic nuclear weapons they had observed were just a show designed to make aliens underestimate human strength. While aliens were watching Earth's public space program, humans had been secretly building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Dr. Unesco, who was Earth's chief scientist, took her place at the speaking podium to explain how humanity had accomplished something that should have taken thousands of years. The key was human adaptability and cooperation. Unlike alien species that developed slowly and competed with each other, humans shared knowledge freely and learned from every mistake. Human researchers had taken alien technologies that had been perfected over millennia and found ways to improve them. In just a few decades, the insect-like Zeth Queen, who controlled billions of drone warriors across multiple star systems, listened in amazement as Dr. Unesco described human scientific methods where Zeth advancement came through slow evolution over countless generations. Human progress came through rapid innovation and creative problem-solving. Human scientists did not wait for gradual improvements. They actively searched for better ways to do everything. The medical advances that had taken alien species thousands of years to develop had been mastered and enhanced by human doctors in less than 50 years. The energy systems that powered alien civilizations had been studied and improved by human engineers who found more efficient ways to generate and store power. The space travel methods that aliens considered the peak of technological achievement had been analyzed by human physicists who discovered faster and safer ways to move between stars. But the most devastating revelation was yet to come. Commander Hai-Jin stepped forward with evidence that human monitoring stations had prevented 17 different interstellar wars over the past 20 years. While the Galactic Council had been taking credit for maintaining peace and stability in the galaxy, it was actually human intervention that had kept alien species from destroying each other. The proof was overwhelming. Human intelligence networks had detected growing tensions between alien governments before the aliens themselves realized conflict was brewing. Human diplomatic agents had worked behind the scenes to resolve disputes that would have led to massive wars. Human technology had quietly disabled weapons shipments and sabotaged military buildups that would have resulted in millions of deaths. The hegemony leaders who ruled over dozens of star systems discovered that their border conflicts with neighboring species had been secretly managed by human peacekeepers every time tensions began to escalate. Mysterious technical failures would occur in weapon systems, or important diplomatic messages would be delivered at exactly the right moment to prevent violence. The stability they had attributed to their own wise leadership had actually been maintained by the species they considered too primitive to understand interstellar politics. The economic implications were staggering as alien governments realized that human agents had been influencing trade agreements, resource distributions, and technology transfers for decades. Many of the business deals that alien species thought they had negotiated themselves had actually been guided by human operatives working to prevent economic conflicts that could lead to wars. The Quillen banking systems that controlled much of the galaxy's financial networks had been quietly monitored and occasionally adjusted by human economists who understood alien psychology and market behavior better than the aliens understood it themselves. Resource shortages that could have caused wars had been prevented by human logistics experts who secretly arranged alternative supply chains. Minor territorial disputes that might have escalated into major conflicts had been resolved by human negotiators working through alien intermediaries. What shocked the alien delegates most was realizing that humans had not been seeking their approval or protection. Earth had been quietly protecting alien civilizations from themselves, while the aliens took credit for peace and prosperity. They had not actually achieved. The species that had been dismissed as childlike and naive had actually been the adults in the room, making sure the real children did not hurt themselves or each other. Ambassador So-min finally spoke, addressing the stunned alien delegates in a voice that carried authority. They had never heard from a human before. She explained that Earth had never wanted to dominate or control galactic civilization. Instead, humans had been working to create a galaxy where all species could prosper without the constant threat of war and destruction that had plagued alien relations for thousands of years. The proposal she presented was simple but revolutionary. Instead of the old system where stronger species dominated weaker ones and conflicts were resolved through violence or economic pressure, humans suggested a new approach based on cooperation, mutual respect, and shared benefit. Every species would contribute their unique strengths to common goals that would benefit everyone. The alien delegates sat in silence, processing the reality that their entire understanding of galactic civilization had been wrong. The species they had planned to supervise and control was actually far more advanced than any of them. The humans, who had appeared weak and helpless, were actually the strongest and most capable force in the galaxy. And most importantly, the primitive barbaric species they had dismissed was actually more civilized and peaceful than any alien civilization had ever been. The demonstration that followed the emergency council session would be remembered as the most impressive display of military power in the entire history of galactic civilization. Captain Wu Jin commanded the human fleet from his flagship as hundreds of Earth vessels performed maneuvers that completely defied everything alien scientists thought they understood about space combat and the basic laws of physics. Ships that were kilometers long moved through space with the grace and precision of dancers, appearing and disappearing using cloaking technology that made them completely invisible to every known type of detection system. The aliens watching from their observation stations could not believe what their sensors were showing them. Human vessels would vanish from one location and instantly reappear thousands of kilometers away without traveling through the space between. What truly amazed the alien observers was not just the incredible advanced technology, but the perfect coordination and precision of human crews. Every single movement was calculated down to the smallest detail. Every action served multiple purposes at the same time, and every strategy showed thinking that was many steps ahead of anything in traditional Military doctrine: the humans moved and fought like they had been preparing for galactic warfare their entire lives, which as it turned out they actually had been doing. Admiral Sangwoo appeared on communication screens throughout the galaxy to reveal something that shocked alien military leaders even more than the advanced technology Earth's military academies had been training officers, specifically for conflicts with each known alien species for over 40 years. Human soldiers knew the combat weaknesses, fighting styles, and psychological profiles of every major galactic civilization better than most aliens knew their own military capabilities. The training programs were incredibly detailed, and thorough human cadets studied alien history more carefully than alien students studied their own past. They learned to think like alien commanders so they could predict enemy strategies before the aliens made their moves. They practiced fighting techniques designed specifically to counter the natural advantages that each alien species possessed. Vorthan warriors, with their 6 arms and superior strength, had always dominated hand-to-hand combat against other alien species, but human soldiers had trained for decades to fight opponents with multiple limbs and enhanced physical capabilities. Human fighters used speed, agility, and unpredictable movement patterns that made Vorthan's strength advantages completely useless. The Quillen species had always relied on their superior intelligence and ability to think many moves ahead in any conflict, but human tactical officers had studied Quillen logic patterns so thoroughly that they could predict Quillen strategies and have counter moves ready before the Quillen commanders even finished making their battle plans. Swarm tactics that had overwhelmed enemy forces for centuries were useless against human squadrons that had practiced fighting against numerical superiority for decades. Human pilots knew exactly how to break up insect formations and turn the Zeth numbers advantage into a weakness that could be exploited. But what really shocked the aliens was human adaptability in real combat situations. When faced with completely new challenges during the demonstration, human crews developed solutions in real time that were more effective than carefully planned alien strategies that had been developed over centuries of experienced ships, modified their weapon systems during active combat, changing energy frequencies and targeting patterns on the spot to overcome defensive systems they had never encountered before. Human crews took equipment designed for one purpose and instantly figured out how to use it for completely different tasks that no one had ever thought of before. Commanders made split-second decisions that turned apparent disadvantages into overwhelming victories. Human officers would deliberately put their ships in what looked like terrible tactical positions only to reveal that they had been setting traps that alien commanders walked into without realizing what was happening. Major So Young commanded a squadron of human fighter craft that demonstrated how Earth pilots could outmaneuver alien ships that were technically faster and more agile than human vessels. The difference was not in the machines themselves, but in the minds that were controlling them. Human pilots thought differently about 3-dimensional space combat, where alien pilots followed established flight patterns and traditional combat maneuvers that had been proven effective over thousands of years. Human pilots constantly improvised and created new approaches that had never been tried before. They used asteroids, meteor showers, and even the gravity fields of planets as weapons in ways that alien tactical manuals said were impossible. The psychological impact on alien forces was devastating. Vorthan commanders who had never lost a battle in their entire careers found themselves completely outmaneuvered by human opponents who seemed to read their minds and counter every strategy before it could be implemented. Quillen strategists who prided themselves on superior intelligence discovered that humans were not just smarter, but thought in completely different ways that made Quillen logic patterns ineffective. Human ships would appear to retreat from battles, only to circle around and attack from directions that aliens had not even considered possible. Human commanders would send obviously fake surrender messages that alien officers would recognize as deception, but then discover that the real trap was something completely different that they had not seen coming. The most disturbing aspect for alien military analysts was that the human demonstration was clearly not showing their full capabilities. Everything the aliens were witnessing was obviously just a small sample of what Earth forces could actually do in a real war situation. Human officers were holding back using only a tiny fraction of their true military power. Admiral Kyung-ho broadcast a message to every alien government explaining that the demonstration was intended to show cooperation and peaceful intentions, not to threaten or intimidate alien species. He revealed that human military doctrine was based on ending conflicts as quickly as possible with minimum casualties on all sides. Human weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy, to capture rather than kill, and to end wars before they could cause the massive destruction that had characterized alien conflicts for thousands of years. Even during the demonstration, human forces had been careful not to cause any permanent damage to alien vessels or harm any alien personnel. The strategic thinking behind human military planning was completely different from traditional alien approaches, where alien species prepared for long wars of attrition that could last for decades or centuries. Humans developed tactics designed to end conflicts in days or weeks. Human commanders studied alien psychology to find ways to convince enemy forces to surrender rather than fight to the death. But the most impressive aspect of human military capability was the logistics and support systems that made their rapid deployment possible. Human supply chains could support massive fleets operating simultaneously in dozens of different star systems. Human communication networks allowed instant coordination between forces separated by thousands of light years. Human manufacturing capabilities could replace damaged equipment and produce new weapons faster than alien forces could adapt to changing battlefield conditions. The aliens realized that they were not just facing a superior military force, they were confronting a completely different approach to warfare that made their own military traditions obsolete. Human success came not from having better individual soldiers or more powerful weapons, but from superior organization, cooperation, and innovative thinking that treated every conflict as a problem to be solved rather than an enemy to be destroyed. As the demonstration concluded, alien military leaders across the galaxy faced the uncomfortable truth that everything they thought they knew about space warfare was wrong. The humans had not just achieved technological superiority, they had revolutionized the entire science of military strategy in ways that would change galactic civilization forever. The aftermath of humanity's revelation sent shockwaves through every corner of galactic civilization that would change how alien species thought about themselves, their place in the universe, and everything they believed about intelligence and power. In the crystalline halls of the Vorthan hegemony, military analysts worked day and night trying to understand how they had so completely misjudged human capabilities. General Vorthak, who was the most decorated Vorthan commander in their species, history admitted to his staff something that no Vorthan military leader had ever said before. Human tactical thinking was unlike anything in their databases, or anything they had encountered in over 500 years of galactic warfare, where Vorthan strategy had always relied on overwhelming force, massive formations, and predictable battle plans that had worked for centuries. Humans used deception, misdirection, and constantly changing approaches that made them nearly impossible to predict or counter. The Vorthan military had been built on the idea that superior strength and advanced technology would always defeat weaker opponents. Their six-armed warriors had dominated battlefields across the galaxy. Their massive warships had never been defeated in direct combat, and their energy weapons could destroy entire planets. But none of these advantages meant anything against human forces that refused to fight the kind of battles that Vorthans were designed to win. What disturbed Vorthan leaders most was the realization that humans had been studying Vorthan culture, psychology, and military doctrine more thoroughly than Vorthans studied these subjects themselves. Human intelligence files contained detailed analyses of Vorthan weaknesses and blind spots that Vorthan commanders had never even considered. The species that had considered themselves the ultimate warriors discovered that they had been completely understood and analyzed by opponents they had dismissed as primitive. On the beautiful water world of Aquaticus, the peaceful Quillan leadership held emergency meetings in their underwater cities to discuss the new reality they faced. Elder Quillara, who had lived through 12 major galactic conflicts and was considered one of the wisest beings in the galaxy, confessed to her council that she had never seen anything like human diplomatic strategy. The Quillans had always prided themselves on being the most intelligent species in the galaxy. Their superior brains could process information faster than any other known life form, and their ability to think many steps ahead in any situation had made them the galaxy's most successful negotiators and deal-makers, but humans had somehow managed to think even further ahead than Quillans could. While the Quillans had been focused on immediate political advantages and short-term gains that might benefit their species over the next few decades, humans had been planning strategies that would benefit all species. Over the next several centuries, human diplomatic thinking operated on timescales that made Quillan planning look short-sighted and selfish. The most humiliating discovery for the Quillans was that human agents had been living among them for over 10 years without being detected. Quillan society was based on complex social relationships and subtle communication patterns that other alien species found impossible to understand, yet humans had not only learned these patterns but had become so good at Quillan behavior that they had been accepted as genuine members of Quillan communities. Quillan intelligence networks that had been considered the best in the galaxy discovered that their most secret communications had been intercepted and decoded by humans who understood Quillan language and culture better than many Quillans understood it themselves. The species that had always been the ones gathering information about others found out that they had been the ones being watched and studied. The insectoid hive queen Zessara found herself facing a crisis that challenged everything her species had believed about evolution, development, and the nature of intelligence itself. Her collective consciousness that linked billions of Zeth drones across multiple star systems had always assumed that advancement came through slow, careful progression over thousands of years. The Zeth had evolved from simple insects into a galactic civilization through gradual improvements that took place over millions of years. Each generation was slightly more advanced than the previous one, but the changes were so small that progress was barely noticeable within any individual lifetime. This slow, steady development had convinced the Zeth that their approach was the only way intelligent life could grow and become more powerful, but humans had achieved in just a few decades what most species took thousands of years to accomplish, and they had done it not through superior biology or natural evolution, but through their strange ability to learn from mistakes, adapt quickly to new situations, and constantly improve their methods through cooperation and shared knowledge. The Zeth Queen struggled to understand how a species that was not connected by a hive mind could coordinate their efforts so effectively. Human individuals seemed to work together, voluntarily sharing information and resources in ways that the Zeth collective consciousness had to force upon its drones. This voluntary cooperation appeared to be more efficient than the Zeth forced unity most disturbing to alien leaders across the galaxy was the realization that humans had been studying them while remaining largely unknown themselves. Every major species had detailed files on human psychology, culture, and apparent capabilities, but all of these files were completely wrong. Earth had deliberately presented a false image of their development level while secretly observing and analyzing galactic civilization with scientific methods that were more thorough and accurate than anything aliens had ever attempted. The hegemony intelligence services discovered that their supposedly secure military installations had been under human surveillance. For years, human observation stations had been monitoring Vorthan fleet movements, recording communications, and analyzing tactical procedures without ever being detected by security systems that had never failed to spot alien spies. Quillan diplomatic archives revealed that many of their most important negotiations and treaty agreements had been influenced by human agents working behind the scenes. Human operatives had provided information-guided conversations and even suggested solutions that Quillan negotiators thought they had developed themselves. The Zeth research facilities found evidence that their scientific experiments and technological developments had been observed by human scientists who had then used Zeth discoveries as starting points for their own research. Human researchers had taken Zeth innovations and improved upon them so quickly that human technology had surpassed Zeth capabilities while the insects were still celebrating their original discoveries. The economic implications were staggering as alien trade networks realized that many business transactions over the past 20 years had been influenced by human agents. working to prevent conflicts and maintain stability resource prices that aliens thought were determined by natural market forces had actually been managed by human economists who understood alien psychology and market behavior better than alien experts. Territorial agreements between different species that had prevented wars and maintained peace had been secretly negotiated by human diplomats, working through alien intermediaries. Technology exchanges that had benefited all participants had been arranged by human scientists who understood what each species needed and what they could contribute to mutually beneficial relationships. The most shocking discovery was that human influence had been uniformly positive for galactic civilization. Every human intervention had prevented conflicts, reduced suffering, and created opportunities for alien species to prosper and develop. Wars that would have killed millions had been prevented by human peacekeepers, who worked invisibly to resolve disputes before they could escalate economic crashes that would have destroyed entire planetary economies. Had been avoided through human financial management that operated behind the scenes to maintain stability. Technological disasters that could have set alien civilizations back by centuries had been prevented by human safety experts who identified and corrected dangerous flaws in alien research projects. The galaxy had been partially managed and protected by the species that alien governments had considered too primitive to participate in interstellar civilization. The children that needed supervision and guidance had actually been the teachers and protectors, while the advanced alien species had been the students who were too proud and ignorant to recognize their own limitations and mistakes. 6 months after the revelation that changed everything, the Galactic Council chambers looked completely different from the place where alien species had once laughed at humanity and dismissed Earth as a primitive world that needed protection. Ambassador Somin now sat at the High Council table, not just representing Earth, but serving as the chief mediator for conflicts between species that had been fighting each other for hundreds of years. Her calm voice and analytical approach to solving problems had proven more effective than traditional alien diplomatic methods, which had relied heavily on intimidation, ancient precedents, and the threat of military force. Ambassador Somin's negotiations were based on finding solutions that benefited everyone involved rather than determining winners and losers through contests of strength or political maneuvering. The transformation was remarkable to witness. Vorthan and Quillen, delegates who had refused to speak to each other for over 2 centuries, were now working together on joint projects under human guidance. Species that had considered each other natural enemies discovered that their conflicts had been based on misunderstandings and competition for resources that were actually abundant enough for everyone. Admiral Kyung-ho stood before the assembled delegates outlining humanity's proposal for a completely new galactic defense network. Unlike the old system, which had relied on individual species maintaining their own territories and settling disputes through warfare, the human plan involved cooperative fleets, shared intelligence networks, and rapid response teams that could prevent conflicts before they had a chance to escalate into violence. The alien delegates, who had been amazed by human strategic thinking, voted unanimously to adopt Earth's military recommendations. The new defense system would be based on human principles of cooperation, early intervention, and conflict resolution rather than the traditional alien approach of waiting for wars to start and then trying to win them through superior firepower. General Minho took command of the new peacekeeping forces, which included volunteers from every major species in the galaxy. These mixed units were trained in human methods of conflict resolution, but with full respect for alien cultures and traditions. The result was a military force that was more effective than any single species army, but also more trusted because it represented the interests of all galactic civilizations rather than just one dominant group. The transformation was not just military and political, but cultural as well. Human universities began accepting alien students who wanted to learn Earth's rapid development methods and innovative approaches to solving problems. Dr. Ji-hoon's classes on adaptive engineering drew students from across the galaxy who were eager to understand how humans could take technologies that had been perfected by older civilizations and find ways to improve them. The teaching methods were completely unlike anything in alien education systems. Human instructors focused on creative problem-solving and learning from mistakes rather than memorizing established procedures and following traditional methods. Students were encouraged to question everything, to experiment with new approaches, and to share their discoveries with classmates rather than competing against each other. Quillen students who had been trained since childhood to think in logical sequential patterns found human educational methods frustrating at first because they seemed chaotic and unstructured, but those who adapted to human teaching styles discovered that they could solve problems faster and more creatively than they had ever been able to do using traditional Quillen methods. Firth and military officers who attended human strategy courses learned that their species' emphasis on overwhelming force was only one of many possible approaches to conflict. Human instructors taught them to consider diplomatic solutions, psychological warfare, and economic pressure as alternatives to direct military confrontation. Many Vorthan officers discovered they were much better at these nonviolent methods than they had ever been at traditional combat. Sith researchers who studied human scientific methods were amazed by the speed at which human knowledge advanced. Human scientists did not wait for gradual evolutionary improvements. Instead, they actively searched for breakthrough discoveries that could advance their understanding by decades or centuries. In just a few years, what surprised the aliens most was that humans did not seek to dominate or control galactic civilization, despite having the military power and technological capabilities to conquer any species they chose. Instead, Earth's leaders worked to create systems that benefited everyone, while preventing the conflicts that had plagued the galaxy for thousands of years. Human peacekeeping forces intervened in disputes not to impose human solutions, but to help alien species find their own answers to their problems. Human mediators facilitated negotiations between hostile groups without taking sides or favoring one party over another. Human scientists shared their discoveries freely with alien researchers rather than keeping advanced technology secret for military advantages. The new galactic government that emerged was based on principles that no alien species had ever successfully implemented. Decisions were made through consensus rather than force, with every species having an equal voice, regardless of their military strength or economic power. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation and compromise rather than warfare, and domination. Trade agreements were designed to benefit all participants rather than allowing stronger economies to exploit weaker ones. Technology was shared freely between species that had previously guarded their scientific secrets jealously. Resource distribution was managed to ensure that every civilization had access to the materials they needed for growth and prosperity. Captain Jinwoo, who had once hidden in a cloaked ship outside the council station, now commanded a fleet of mixed human and alien vessels that patrolled the galaxy, maintaining peace and responding to emergencies. The crews of these ships worked together so effectively that it was often impossible to tell which species individual officers belonged to. The success of integrated crews led to similar cooperation in every aspect of galactic society. Human and alien engineers worked together on construction projects that were more ambitious than anything any single species had ever attempted. Scientists from different worlds collaborated on research that advanced knowledge faster than had been achieved in thousands of years of separate development. Cultural exchange programs allowed members of different species to live and work in each other's societies. Learning new perspectives and sharing their own traditions, artists created works that combined elements from multiple civilizations, producing art forms that were more beautiful and meaningful than anything that had existed before. The economic prosperity that resulted from cooperation rather than competition amazed everyone involved. When species stopped fighting over resources and started working together to develop them efficiently, there turned out to be more than enough wealth and materials for every civilization to prosper and grow. The most remarkable change was in how different species viewed each other. The fear and suspicion that had dominated galactic relations for millennia gradually disappeared as aliens discovered that cooperation produced better results than conflict. Working together toward common goals created friendships and understanding that crossed species boundaries that had once seemed unbridgeable. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest Strength was not their advanced technology or superior military power, but their ability to unite different groups toward shared objectives. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together under human guidance, discovering that cooperation was more effective than the competition that had defined galactic politics for thousands of years. Earth had not conquered the galaxy through force or intimidation. Instead, humans had transformed galactic civilization through the simple but revolutionary idea that different species could work together rather than against each other. The result was a galaxy that was more peaceful, more prosperous, and more advanced than anyone had ever imagined possible.